was listening to NPR, and they were talking about how cultural Marxism is actually rooted in anti-Semitism because it's against like the Jewish academics that came up with the concepts behind it. Like the idea that this is the label that they're going to pin to sort of turn the tides is very strange to me. And I think ultimately with these students, some of them, you know, really strongly believe these things on either side. They're very pro-Palestine or whatever. Like, you know, they're affected by, you know, fears of anti-Semitism. But my concern is that as we go into the summer, as these schools lets out, it could make them die off because the students have to scatter, or it could make the epicenters. You're starting to see these maps pop up, like Vanderbilt has an encampment. I think it's University of Minnesota has an encampment where all the other students in the area are like, this is what I'm going to do this summer. And the encampments become more serious. I mean, we're at this point where it could sort of go either way, but we know that this movement is spreading throughout the country.
So this is the Wikipedia entry for cultural Marxism. It says cultural Marxism conspiracy theory. That's funny. And it says it's a far-right anti-Semitic conspiracy theory that misrepresents the Frankfurt School as being responsible for modern progressive movements, identity politics, and political correctness. The conspiracy theory posits that there is an ongoing and intentional academic and intellectual effort to subvert Western society via a planned culture war that undermines supposed Christian values of traditionalist conservatism and seeks to replace them with culturally liberal values. I actually agree that's a conspiracy theory because I don't think that the woke left really do want to replace conservatism with woke liberal values or anything like that. I think they're literally just burning things down. So
the emergence of the right doing these, you know, this anti-Semitism and everything, I think it's actually very simple. I think that there are a handful of people that are pushing that narrative. But what I think is that we've been giving Israel money for a very long time, and it's never been an issue. People are struggling to eat. People are struggling to pay their mortgages, and they want someone to blame. I think a lot of it is very simple. So a lot of these people who are now speaking up, I got to blame Ukraine, and Ukraine won't stop, and now we're sending money to Israel. I think it's actually a lot more simple than that.
They apparently now have another page called Marxist Cultural Analysis.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is literally cultural Marxism, but you can't call it that anymore because that would be anti-Semitic.
Exactly. It's literally the exact same thing.
But it's the co-opting of language, right?
Well, and you mentioned this, Tim. You just think they're burning it down. I agree. I think those are the same thing. The idea that you'd call it like a conspiracy theory that academics in the American education system want to get rid of Christianity and replace it with liberal cultural values. Like, they tell us that's what they want. They say that that's what they want. What are you talking about?
That's anti-Semitic, though.
Yeah, that's anti-Semitic, I guess. Oh well.
For some
Greg
reason,
Abbott's gonna have to throw me in prison.
But yeah, right. For some reason, being critical of postmodernism and the Frankfurt School means you don't like Jewish people.
Yeah.
So like, what does that make Ben Shapiro?
Again, this was like the
self-hating.
Listening to
That's
NPR.
right.
Like if you're a random person driving your car, you're like, I want to be informed. I'm going to try and listen to it. You probably listen to NPR, and so you're hearing like, oh, cultural Marxism is actually anti-Semitic because it's a criticism of the Jewish academics who created it, or like whatever these two people who are discussing it are saying. Like, it makes it easy to learn that there are certain words that you are supposed to avoid. And I think it does misrepresent sort of people who use the term cultural Marxism to describe what's going on in this country who are not anti-Semitic at all. Like, it's a very strange thing. But again, it's an intentional move, I think, by progressive media outlets to shut down conversation and say, we're going to keep you on track by limiting the words you're allowed to use.
Well, exactly. And so phrases like anti-Semitic, racist, sexist, misogynist, at bottom, what these phrases mean are you're mean. And so when you say something that people in power don't like, for example, you point out that cultural Marxism is a reality, that all of our conventions and values have been subject to deconstruction over the past several decades, and academia has been pushing it. Well, they go, yeah, well, you're mean.